Basically, we have, this is like one of our nodes of our master plan, which will go further detail. But we have kind of this proposed, how we feel the grid would work, and then these kind of go on to that in the order, so that you can see like it's like scored. And then the triangles, they stack by like the triangles fitting to one another, so you see like this triangle is reversed, these triangles fitting to next. Or like these three triangles would stack on top of these three triangles, because in this, like, they connect in that way, if that makes sense. And then like they can also connect through these connections, so that the houses do not butt up against, and there's still passage for safety and other matters. So feel free to do what you want. So I'm Danielle, I'm not.
And I'm Zach.
And our project, I guess, is Project Grow. This concept of modular housing for Rwanda.
Where's your hold this?
And we have, as you've heard probably like 4 times now,
Make sure it doesn't
our
slide
site is
over.
in the district of Kinyinya, in the capital Kigali in Rwanda, which is in Africa.
I don't know why this is not sliding.
That is our site, way up there. It's kind of smaller, but this is like the proposed, what everyone else has been working off of where their site is positioned. And then just oriented north.
So what we looked at was some vernacular patterns of settlement in Rwanda, and these are just kind of some things that we found online. We have,
Don't touch it.
King's Hut typology right here, where it's like circles and like smaller circles going around like a central point and everything. We have some informal settlements up here, where people are building on up the hill, you know, wherever they want, however they want. Some more informal settlements right here, and then more of the King's Hut typology over there, where which we actually decided to pursue with our master plan.
We tried, when coming up with our master plan and our whole concept, we really wanted to keep the vernacular of Rwanda, and there's a lot of urban poor housing in this informal settlement, kind of, I don't want to say take over, but just overcrowding of houses, and so they don't have, we wanted to kind of keep true to that, but kind of upgrade it, because currently most informal settlements have very poor infrastructure, it's inadequate, and with the monsoon rains that occur in Rwanda, and the sewage, and there needs to be a way to develop these issues and make them better. And they also lead to a lot of diseases, including pneumonia, tuberculosis, diarrhea. There's also the issues of STDs because of crime, and then the West Nile. And in these urban in these informal settlements, they don't really have the facilities needed to treat these, and a lot of the diseases develop because of the overcrowding. And so we're really looking at kind of like the people and how it's affecting the people more so the architecture, and how the architecture can better the people. And despite all this turmoil, we need to take a closer look, and what most people don't realize is these are still people who are living there. This is their homes, and they look at this as their sense of community and where they're living, and that, you know, they strive every day to work and to live, and this is where they come home. And they actually are very, if you look at it, they're urban planning themselves, because they're very intelligent on how they place themselves. They, you know, will place themselves closer to where they can work, where there's amenities such as, you know, water supply or a school per se, and it's basically what they need. And overall, we're kind of trying to have this continued sense of they place things where they want. They have this freedom of creativity and freedom of how they choose to live. And so we're really focusing on this choice of freedom and kind of how we can take the informalness of the current slums and how they just kind of develop in themselves, but still implement some sort of framework so that it doesn't become chaos. Basically, in our last script, we had someone say kind of, organizing chaos, which is kind of hard to do, but still, I feel that many people don't realize that like there's like sometimes this bigger system that tries to come in and implement this form of, structure, and this is what you're gonna live in, this is the type of building that you're gonna have, and this is how you're gonna live in it. And most people, either A, can't afford that, or B, refuse to, because it's not, they strive for this need of personal achievement, and I built this, I'm willing to live in this, it's my design, it's how I want to live. And I feel that that's a way in which we can kind of solve, per se, this informalness of overcoming the growth.
So some of the things that we looked at to establish this framework, we originally were looking at a system of fractals. We found that fractals could be very useful since we're dealing with a lot of different scales. So different scales of buildings, scales for our road work and infrastructure, and scales for our housing. So with this fractals, we started with circles. And circles were nice and everything because you get the King's Hut typology mixing with it and everything. And then we didn't want to have all circles because when you put two circles next to each other, you have this kind of like wasted awkward space in the middle. So we decided to go with something hexagonal and triangular and hexagonal based off of this grid work. And we found that this worked really well, and we can, use this grid to kind of develop this fractaling system, this fractaling infrastructure. And so this is what our revised master plan ended up looking like. This was our first master plan and model right here, and it's really chaotic. And then we switched to the hexagonal over here, where we have this system of circles and everything, and then we have like this is a school right here, this node, and we have these nodes of schools and amenities going around the circles. And then from those schools, we have kind of like amenities and utilities branching off from that, to which someone can, and people build around that. And we established this grid of triangles so that people can build their hexagonal forms on it, because like a hexagon is just 6 equilateral triangles put together. So we have this grid so that people can build wherever they want and however they want in our master plan. And with this fractaling and with this creativity of building wherever you want, we wanted to stay focused with the growth. And I'm working with education, and I found that the community can grow, and you can grow, your education can grow too, like through this system of architecture too, with the people the schools being a central node and everything branching out from that. So that's how I plan on incorporating education into our master plan. This is an example of a node plan, kind of like similar to what we have right here, where we have the big school right here, and then an amenity, and then we also have a green space right here where the children at the school can go and they can play, or maybe the teacher decides to take class outside for the day if it's really nice. And then branching off, you have this node right here, which could be like another amenity, such as like maybe a post office or some businesses or something. And that'll be like the electronical and like the water, where all your utilities like come from, and then from there people can attach to that. So we decided to do a modular unit. If you wanted to talk about this.
So we first started out with different typologies of this building, this house, which you can see on our old master plan. And it's like you can choose from these houses. But then we've transformed into this whole kit of parts, if you will, of we're going to provide you with this amount of building material and this is how it will go together. And so basically in the old master plan, we were trying to devise these rules and set up these rules so that chaos wouldn't overtake and that it would kind of be, they would have this freedom, but then it would be structured. So now we're kind of developing this modular unit, which is kind of creating its own rules itself in the way that we designed it. Like looking at the shades, the sun shades, you can only connect in certain ways. And then looking at the roof plan, which you can also see in model, you can only place your building on certain areas, and then with the tilted screens, you can't place over the green space. And we kind of have this basic three-part system, the kitchen, the living, and then the bedrooms and bath. And then you're able to add on, I believe the lower level has an addition. You're able to add on 2 more bedrooms, which would look like this one. Or you can, what else is there?
You can, well, the triangle is pretty much, you can add on 2 bedrooms, or you can add on another bedroom, and then the office and the bathroom are interchangeable. So you can either have another bathroom, or you can, depending on how many people you want to live there, or you could put an office in there. Say if you have like 2 big bedrooms, there's not that many people. So like it can adjust to your level of income as well, because maybe you need more people living there. You have more people living there, and then maybe you're want to just expand your own personal space instead of for other people too. And in addition to the bedrooms and the bedrooms addition, you could also add on maybe another living space if you choose to do that as well.
I'm just showing you the love now. I made it something hard.
Did you try laying out furniture in this room? I mean, I've always wanted to bathe in a triangular shaped tub, but.
We've had some issues on the whole aspect of the furniture because I was trying to think of, like my project is kind of, his project is like the education in the schools and he's going to develop the schools. And then I was going to really like try and develop this like modular framework because I'm really focusing on informal settlements for my research. And so we were going to try and do like this built-in system of furniture. But I don't know.
I think it's gonna be hard with like the fridge and the kitchen and that sort of
Right.
thing. I mean, triangles are a really challenging, well, Ian knows better than I, she has a master's degree in interior design. It makes for a lot of wasted space, so while you get efficiencies at the site scale, it gets very difficult at the architectural scale.
What, how big is the, like, bathroom wall or like bedroom?
Yeah,
What
you
is, it seems that there's something scale, I don't think there's any bathroom in there or the office in that time. Either doors are too big or,
It's obviously not on the 50 because it's far enough
Well,
clear
yeah.
over there, but that's probably 1 to 50, so
Yeah.
maybe you don't know ruler.
Video scale.
I have a ruler. It's
Oh,
kind of scale.
Or futures.
Yeah, either
I know
your
each
doors are
side-
off or there's not.
I know each side is 8 meters. Like
Yeah,
each side of the
each
lateral.
side of the triangle is 8 meters, which is around 24 feet.
Yeah, I think we talked about your bedrooms being 4 by 4, which is 12 by 12 feet. It's a good sized bedroom, so
Yeah,
it might be that your doors are just smaller.
I tried to make it 1 meter.
1 meter is too big.
Yeah, you would, interior doors, aren't they like 2?
We could just 70 or 90, or 90 would be enough.
Maybe you can just thinking about, I mean, anything you can do to sort of increase the use of space, and maybe these are pocket least she gives you more square footage. You still have that what you do with a point problem, but I think that at least it gives you more. I mean, you might look at, I mean, again, I'm not an architect, so I'm like way out of my element here, but, I mean, between those two triangles, you take that wall out and you get one good-sized parallelogram shaped office that might be a little easier to, you know, use rather than the two elaborate triangles.
We have ventilation for each of our spaces.
Yes, we have, oh. Well, should we continue on or do?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry,
sorry.
sorry.
So then we were looking at materials and how we could construct this. And, some of the materials, the traditional ones are like mud brick, street flooring, and clay roof tiling. More formal ones are fire brick, steel and glass, and ceramic tiles. And then alternatives, lightweight concrete or papercrete, and, Iro stone, paper mache, and hemp. And we kind of, researched and we thought that papercrete would kind of be a beneficial, material to use because it's easy to construct. It's, economical and it's there. And while we're trying to do this whole modular thing and like, we're trying to make everything as like local as possible. So, and the people themselves can construct this, and it's very, it's water resistant. I didn't do that. Oh, okay. If you wanna continue talking, I'll fix this. I don't.
Yeah, so, we decided to use this, papercrete material and, you know, woods and everything, different materials to construct this house. And the idea that we were trying to go for was, that the people could build the house themselves. You know, it gives them, you know, kind of a better sense of ownership and everything. And with a simplistic modular construction like this, it could be easy to accomplish something like that.
Can you explain the papercrete a little bit and the rainy season? Does that hold up pretty well?
I was researching and it said that it's water resistant, but it would need a sealant. So, and we talked with, Professor Brown about that, and he agreed that, I mean, while it's like a beneficial material, we would definitely need like some sort of sealant types. We also have like, the glass work, he said would kind of be like a shield almost, because we have like the glass panelings for the facade, could be like almost a shield for the structure itself. And then these are some of our techniques and how we're building. For the water, we have these biospheres, which is shown on the node, and we have our buildings raised. They actually go at different levels, which you can see on the interior. Do you want to take that apart?
Yeah.
On the interior of this modular unit. And that allows for ventilation, so air can get through and under and keep a cool, constant breeze. And it also allows for the water to trickle under the building and not get trapped. And then we also have the sun shading device, which I mentioned earlier, will be a, also it'll shade, so there's cool spaces, but it will also be a buffer, so that the structures cannot be touch one another.
And so we developed these sunshades so that we could shade the green space, but also that, so we couldn't build above someone else's green space, because you wouldn't want building on top of your backyard.
And that's what the triangular raised pieces are demonstrating.
But what she was talking about with the level change, you can kind of see on the exterior right here, and inside each triangle can like go up another level. And we developed this for, we have multiple reasons for this. With your living space being some of the lower levels and everything, you have a higher ceiling, about 4 meters, which is, you know, around 12 feet of space and everything. And that's a very public space to be in your entry and in your living room. And so you figure you don't really need 12 feet of ceiling space in a bedroom. So we can like step it up, you know, create more intimate space where, you know, it's where you want your privacy. And another thing that we saw with this going up, with this kind of growth as it spirals up, is that it creates opportunities for air ventilation to come underneath the building and come through the bottom where the floor levels change.
And those are, we put them together without gluing them, but you can't really take them apart because the walls are glued. So that's kind of a downfall. We were trying to figure out a way in which the walls could attach so that we wouldn't.
Do you have a slide or a diagram that talks about how all the parts go together?
Yeah, we have an axon.
Well, not the individual parts, but
We can talk about it.
yeah.
Um,
Well, it was kind of shown in model.
Maybe that's the next section.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to go more in.
But you could talk a little bit about some of the concepts you were looking at, the
Mhm.
different connections.
Like-
The dovetail, the noise and kind of.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, in model here, you can see the kind of dovetail attachments right here, in which, they can just slide in next to each other. And then how they fit in the housing above is they have these wooden sliders in the walls, and they fit into the grooves in the roof. Which, grooves that would be unused, would have the caps in so that the water doesn't puddle up in there.
And then for the roofing system itself, we have this like peg-leg system where it will go into the wall structure because it is a thick wall structure. And it would, let me see if I can do this. I'll break it.
That's several pieces you have together, right? Those are individual
Yeah.
pieces.
Yeah, so, yep, perfect. So anyway, who's popping? I can hear you. Figured. So these will go in here. This was so much easier last night when I did not actually have to do it. Anyway, that goes in there. And then these also can be pulled out and they slide in and it's like a pin system of sorts. And like he said, these are for those to pop in. And then in this one, as you can see, we also have these that he was talking about that go into there. But they're also for that, because we're not changing the grade, we're leaving it as is, which this is not true grade. We just did that for visual representation. It would probably be about this thick if we were to do, because it's a 5-meter grade drop. But as you can see, some of these are lasered across the grade. So what we decided was if your house is going to be built there, you'll have these pillar systems in which you can, say if your house is like this, you could raise this one up and then you could level that system out. So, and then we have these panelings as, you can either have a glass panel or a wood panel, and that way you can manipulate your facade into being, say my bedroom's here, I want it to be more private, so this side you can put 2 panels, or if you have your living space and you want it open, you can put 2 box panels. So those will all fit together.
You can even put in a half panel and have it be able to slide up and down.
So, I mean, our ultimate goal, I guess, is to, like we said, provide this framework that informal housing can still be evident, but not all of what informal housing is. It can be kind of an upgrade. And so that it can grow, and that with the education, they can be taught in the schools this whole system of how things work and how things connect and how they have this freedom to build, and then it can continue to grow. And
Yeah, we just really tried working with this fractaling concept and trying to make everything modular and customizable to allow maximum creativity on various scale levels to kind of go along with the fractal. So you can control where your house goes, you can control what your house has inside of it, and you can also control what it looks like.
You have the pattern stored on the site, is that the intention to have sites then, lots that you can build on, or is that just to facilitate this game?
we did, my intention was just to facilitate for this game, this is our proposed plan, but then how would you see it built? Because everyone has a different, we're gonna, overall say, here's what we think we
That's
can
the
do.
question, are you gonna like set it out ahead of time and say you can build it here, 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 or are you gonna make it like the Game and Go, you know, where you put down one rock and then you put down another rock and then you put down another rock and then it grows organically from
I feel
that?
like it should grow organically. I think I just.
So you'll put in the civic buildings and then let folks
Because
build
those,
in.
yeah, those are generated from this grid too, so people would build from those, because it's on the same
And the
grid.
assumption is everyone's gonna go as tight as possible to each other so then they'll fit onto your grid.
Yes, I mean, or eventually they would go, I mean, you could build it really far away from each other, but if your house fits between two structures with your sunshades and everything, then, and like, even say, like, I didn't want a sunshade, but I wanted to be next to this guy, like, there's still a pathway, there's no like fire hazard of how like, you're not like building right on someone's house, other, I mean, unless you're building on top of it.
I think it's an interesting idea to have modular housing, especially in this region where it's kind of poor and we can create modules and bring it in inside and build it really fast. And you can go there, you can tell them what you're doing. I don't know if you know this, architecture company shop. Some architects, they design, similar to what we used to have in when we create, when you buy the package and you buy a perfect airplane and then you build the airplane with the little pieces.
Okay.
That's how they design their whole buildings. And they have numbers and then the engineers put it together and then they bring it to the site.
That's interesting.
So, I mean, for the phrase you used at the beginning, that I think Drew was the one who tossed out when we were last together around organizing chaos, do you feel like you're accomplishing that? So I'm getting organized, for sure. I'm not sure that there's that much chaos, and maybe that's fine, you know, but I think, you know, the system has, even though there's some flexibility to it, it has constraints, and maybe that's what you need to do to get to, you know, full service via the infrastructure and a safe, equitable plan. I'm just kind of curious about where you guys think it falls on that organized to chaos spectrum.
I think personally for me, we made a big jump from like, I look at this and I see chaos, and then I look at this and I see organized. So I guess like I'm looking on like this scale of like, not necessarily organized and like people going like, you know, right, like they're doing whatever they want, but it's just like, more so we now have this grid work of this is how things can develop, instead of just like, here's these rules, build whatever. I guess, I don't know, I feel like it's more an organized grid.
In organized, creative,
I like don't know what
We're
words
interested,
are,
right?
like, yeah.
I don't like chaos though. Because it's not, it's more creativity than chaos.
But I think that there's something about your earlier plan, and I'm trying to figure out what it is, but there's something appealing about that that doesn't get translated to this later. I mean, I see that this is the next iteration of kind of more thoughtful way of understanding how the pieces could all fit together. But I don't know if it's just maybe it's the topography I'm responding to here, because I know this one has the
Yeah.
flattened topography, but I just think that the way that these are sort of across the hillside is kind of, it's nice.
I think these are stacking more too, where those are, you know, as they're arranged now, are pretty much all on one level.
Yeah, it's true. There's definitely more. Well, maybe that's just because I'm not quite smart enough to figure out how to do the second story here. Can you guys show us how that
Oh,
works?
here, I can actually show you what I'm doing right now. So, you can build as long as at least 2/3 of your building is supported, I mean, that's unless you find another way to support your building. And then those supports I was talking about earlier will then fit into the system, but they have to be, like the triangles have to line up. Does that make sense?
How many stories can you do?
This is actually like a perfect example of how like education could be incorporated into this design. Like in schools, you can play around with the architecture.
There you
know?
go. That's the subject. To that point, on the idea of the diagram, I think what you need is an exploded axonometric that shows the, kind of how it all kind of comes together, so that it's really.
kind
I
of
have one right
presented-
here
Oh, there
of
you
like
go.
how the units connect. But
Yeah.
are you suggesting one of
Yeah,
how
we have-
like the triangles?
Only that if you give me like a rule book of how to kind of put it all together, it's gonna take a long time to process that, especially because this is, although simple, is also kind of complex. Where if there was a drawing that sort of, okay, I get it, that would be helpful. It's the same way like when you have like IKEA furniture, and there's all these steps, some of them in Swedish, and it's, and you see the drawing, you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And we also have a stair unit, but, as you can see.
So I feel like there's a similar, yeah. Seems break, it's normal. Do you feel like there's a similar kind of, practical quality with the landscape? Because I guess it's true, it's the void spaces in between the buildings that become your, landscape. But I mean, aside from this kind of central organizing feature, is there more to the way that your green space will evolve? Or is it just the spaces in between the buildings that's the green space?
So we were actually had an idea, that like you can get like, you'll have leftover space in the grid, and maybe an answer to that could be like, some sort of modular public space where you can like have like, maybe like a play space for kids, or you could have like modular like, social spaces, or modular like, benches or seats or gathering places or something like that.
I might suggest that part of your plan, you actually make choices about the green space. Let people make their own choices about their living space, but at least put in some, there's a sort of derisive term that you hear thrown around the planning circle, SLOPE, it's an acronym for space left over after planning. And that's just sort of that junk space that's left around. And most often, that's not super successful. So, I mean, I think that it's fine to allow people to create their own personal spaces outdoors around the building, but that if there were some kind of common public spaces, it could, in addition to your roadway, be sort of an organizing thing that allows the rest of it to develop. And you're probably no need for yesterday. But I think, I think that it's gone in a really interesting direction since I saw it, the last time. I was just wondering sort of where you guys are going to take it from here. The next step is some more in-depth, design of the, kind of key buildings, is that true? So are you going to be designing these?
I would be designing a school.
Okay, that's right.
And then I would explore further into the modular unit.
Which I think the master plan needs to be on the priorities and stuff. Update that, make sure you have all the amenities of the site.
Well, when you do update your master plan, I would encourage you to kind of think through what you did the last time and see if there's just something about it that you could translate into this one. I mean, you shouldn't just kind of toss that aside and start with something else.
That's right, you like this one a lot.
I
It
do
was
like
the
that
other
one.
yours that didn't show up this time.
I like that one. I like the fact that there are these kind of big buildings that give the whole site kind of a presence, and then the rest of it is just sort of scattered about. It's kind of nice. I mean, if you moved on from that, don't feel like, but I think,
I think they're trying to accomplish that.
And like, we try to accomplish that still with like the buildings in the middle here, as you can see. But I don't know if they read as like, as contrasting as what those do.
maybe this one needs color too, because I look at this
Yeah.
master plan and I'm really confused by it, and I'm trying to figure out how this kind of low health section is part of that health transit plan.
What about public utilities? That was a big question last time. Like, we talked about that as being your driver for how you set up your nodes. How do you plan on getting your utilities to your buildings?
Like,
Like water
Wi-Fi?
I mean, I would think that if this corridor is providing the majority of your services, you're suddenly gonna find your units clustering as close to that as possible.
Yeah.
Because even with power transmission, the further you get away from the trunk line, you know, there's more transmission, there's more power loss, that sort of thing. So you may find that where you put that infrastructure, suddenly you get your greatest density and then it tapers off.
First thought, I don't know if this is exactly the right answer yet, but we have these connectors in the shades that connect. I think utilities should move through that because it gives people like, it makes them connect in that way. And, you know, so they can connect, they can do the utilities and that.
I think that's a good strategy, because I was wondering what keeps somebody from moving, 2 feet away from being connected, and then that screws up your whole grid, right?
So
Yeah.
maybe even like he mentioned earlier that like from this vending, like say it's a post office, you'll have like electricity or something. So like if you attach maybe to that, and then it kind of starts this rippling effect.
Or even just attach the ground somewhere that attaches to one of the houses, and then they all connect, kind of like a circuit board.
So the contrarian view, which you can reject if you choose, would be to make each module a self-contained sort of distributed infrastructure. We were working on this project in Cleveland around, demolished houses and using the foundation as a sort of freestanding power cell / water filtration units. But, I mean, the technology exists through fuel cells, through solar panels, through, we were just at a building that had a closed loop water system. So, I mean, there is, but there doesn't have to be outside plumbing, and that all the water just is purified and recirculated, which is, for those of us who live in Great Lakes, it's a little bit scary, because when that system is perfected and very cost effective, you could take your module and put it in the middle of the desert or Las Vegas or wherever, and, and so all the water would be here, there'd be really no motivation. But, I don't know, I mean, I think you could think about sort of distributed, self-contained infrastructure or a centralized system, but you need to, I think, make a choice about whether you want one or the other or some hybrid of the two. I mean, really, you can almost see it where you're generating power, you're producing some amount of food, you're filtering the water and waste, and, you could kind of have almost everything you need in this little unit, at which point you could have more flexibility in how you arrange things. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, is for you.
We were thinking like water collection for the individual units and, kind of have it collect towards on the roof, there'd be a slight slope to connect towards the center, because you'd have like your kitchen right here and you'd have your bathroom right here, you'd have your water sources, so maybe be integrated in the middle. And then when I was doing my research on education and the schooling, they have a lot of new technological advancements in schools, and so PV panels on rooftops could help, facilitate that technological advancement by having more energy for their technology. So maybe the schools could be their nodes of technology, and that individual house could have their own water.
That makes sense. I mean, if the school is a central amenity in any case, you could have a lot of things served by it. I think as you're kind of working on the floor plan for this house, that central space almost has to be your utility pole, right? I mean, there's no kind of common wall between the bathroom and the kitchen, so unless you're gonna, sorry, here I am, amateur architect, but I mean, if you put 2 plumbing walls in, you're gonna make a really expensive house as opposed to having a shared place with the water.
Yeah, maybe something in this area right
Something
here.
needs to happen, yeah, some kind of. I think that, kind of detailing your master plan and then really working out some of the challenges that your geometry is creating here.
Which shows the next.
So you just had something to eat and you can get back on.
This is her project. This is
Well, just kind of keep in mind that if you really wanted to be formal and self-designed, kind of co-creative, don't, I mean, all the triangles, it's like it's almost The potential to really frustrate the residents of this place by creating that kind of geometry is really there. So figure out places maybe where that,
So you can add to your space.
it doesn't have to be so rigid. That would solve a lot of your problems, but it would also change your whole plan. But I think, you know, kind of maybe that's why I like the original plan. I mean, this idea of stacking cubes, because cubes combine to rectangles, and cubes and rectangles are really useful in an architectural field plan. For triangles, I love it.
So yeah, it really needs a lot of space.
What's up, Mark?
In my mind, you have to just figure out what's going on, how to come back to it.
You know, and as with one of the previous projects, I think it would also be useful to have an overlay to your master plan that really does kind of define that green space system. Because in a plan that is built on recognizing chaos, and there's vaguely around how those public and semi-public and private spaces interface, or how they could as.
So this is about modular growth, yeah?
Yeah.
You know, you may want to look at the work of Elemental, Alejandro, I can't think of his last name. He did a very interesting project where he actually built half the house for the occupant. Just enough of the house that they had, the plumbing, and they had basically the structure. And he left enough space in between each of the units that as the owner needed more space, that there was enough space that they could get modular lumber that they could then build, finishing out the rest of it. It's a project in, I think, Argentina.
Yeah,
Chile.
In Chile.
Isn't it
Chile.
Tim's
Yeah,
precedent?
Tim did a case
Yes,
study on
yes,
that, and that
yes.
was kind of the impetus for
Yeah,
it.
very interesting house, but you know, that actually, although he did that in the mid-2000s, that has history back to a project that Aldo Van Eyck did in the '70s in Lima, Peru. There was a, they brought in these architects to look at public housing. Their idea was to create exactly kind of what you have here, where there's a system that then becomes modular that allows for its own growth. I think is a really interesting and compelling approach. So you might want to look at some of the work that Aldo Van Eyck did in Lima, Peru, that kind of has this kind of pattern. The big question is, how do you guide growth? And I think that's a really compelling question. Stephen Hole came up with a really kind of cool scheme. They were doing a competition for area again in Latin. Un-American, I kind of love what he did. He basically said, I can't control how people are going to build. But what I can do is I can say, where are the streets and where are the squares? So he actually came up with this arcade. It was just a simple arcade that created a public space and created this sort of street edge. And he said, people are going to build behind it, whatever they're going to build. And I thought it was just, I've always thought it's just a beautiful scheme of just laying out where the public space is, and then allowing what happens behind it to be whatever happens behind it. So he made the archway just wide enough that it allowed for a shot to happen behind it. He did these great drawings where you see this arcade, and then he shows this sort of like shantytown architecture taking shape around it. And he just allowed that to be, what it was going to be. But I wonder if you could do something that really begins to look at the public space, and it begins to fill in or allow your modular growth to happen behind it.
We did have this thing with the roads, and then we have our schools be like, or kind of, our schools are a node, and then it fractals off of that into like a particular amenity, and then, that's where your utilities run from and everything, and then people can attach onto that and based off of the grid.
It's a very compelling scheme. I really like what you have. I mean, it makes a lot of sense because, who are you to say how big